St John the Baptist Church, Northwood, was established in the late 12th century as a chapel of St Mary's Church, Carisbrooke. Carisbrooke was one of 6 churches given by William Fitzosborne, Lord of the Island after the Norman conquest, to his abbey of Lyre, Normandy. Lyre founded a priory at Carisbrooke. There was also a chapel at Newport and a leper chapel on the outskirts of Parkhurst Forest. The original parish of Northwood was extensive but sparsely inhabited, being, as its name implies, mainly woodland. Bounded by Parkhurst Forest in the south, it stretched from Thorness in the west to Wherrer in the east, including Gurnard and what would later become the town of West Cowes. Northwood Church was sited near to the ancient river port of West Shamlord on the River Medina. The priory had one of its tithe barns at Northwood from which goods were traded. After Fitzosborne died, his son rebelled against William the Conqueror. His lands, therefore, including the island, were forfeit to the crown and later granted by Henry I to Richard de Redvers. De Redvers founded Quart Abbey and gave it generous patronage, as did his successors, at the expense of Lyre Abbey and its island churches and chapels. The church was enlarged in the 13th century with the addition of a north and then south aisles in the transitional Gothic style, Norman pillars and Gothic arches, probably with side altars to the Virgin and St John the Baptist. The chevron Norman archway was moved to the south door. The early medieval stoop for holy water unearthed in the churchyard in 1954 can still be seen in the porch today. War with France from the late 13th century onwards caused problems to Carisbrooke and its chapels as an alien priory of Lyre. Finally, King Henry V sequestered the English Lyre churches, giving them to his Carthusian foundation at Sheen. The settlement around the church was abandoned at some time during the 14th and 15th centuries. Aerial photographs have shown the outlines of the foundations of the buildings. The island's population plummeted under the impacts of the plague, the 100 Years' War, and poor harvests. However, both the church and the tithe barn were rethatched in 1350 or 1351, only 2 years after the Black Death, so a local population must have survived the church to serve. In the 15th century, windows were inserted into the outer walls. 2 of the original 15th century windows still remain, middle of North Aisle and at the east end of the South Aisle. 2 flying buttresses were thrown across the aisles to counteract the outward pressure of the nave walls at these points. The chancel was re-roofed, if not entirely rebuilt during this period. Evidence of this flatter pitch can still be seen on the east wall of the nave. The chancel arch, a plain splay springing directly from the wall impost, was probably widened. It looks as though the early arch had been destroyed. In 1486, Northwood was granted the right to consecrate the chapel grounds so that parishioners no longer had to carry their dead to Carisbrooke for burial. In 1512, a local landowner gave land near the church of the stewards of the Brothers and Sisters of the Fraternity of St John the Baptist. A house called Church House was built there, which was still standing in 1690, but it still remains unidentified. Fraternities provided mutual help to their members, including prayers for the dead, and supported their local church. The north door is late perpendicular 16th century and may have been used by the fraternity. The fraternity was suppressed as part of Henry VIII's dissolution of the religious houses in 1536. Its lands and assets were seized by the Crown, which now appointed the Vicar of Carisbrooke. The Vicar appointed curates to serve the chapels of Carisbrooke. In 1537, all churches were ordered to keep parish registers in a triple-locked chest, keys for minister and church wardens. In 1543, each parish was ordered to keep a parish gun. In 1631, the church wardens of Northwood were threatened with imprisonment at Carisbrooke unless they carried out repairs to the parish gun. They were still buying gunpowder for the church cannon in 1781. Castles built in the 1530s at the mouth of the River Medina led to the growth of ports of West and East West Cowes, which soon eclipsed West and East Shamlord. In 1545, Northwood was relieved from paying church rate to Carisbrooke. The church poverty is revealed by an inventory dated 1553, as there were no chalices, candlesticks, or other valuables, unlike all other island churches. Northwood pulpit is Jacobean, complying with the 1604 ordinance that all churches should have a pulpit. In 1620, King Charles I gave the advowson, right to appoint clergy, of Carisbrooke and its chapels to Queen's College, Oxford. The college was founded to help educate poor boys from Westmoreland and Cumberland areas devastated by raids by the Scots. By the 19th century, the population of Cowes was many times that of still rural Northwood. St Mary's Chapel, Cowes, founded near the Commonwealth, was substantially enlarged for the early 1800s thanks to George Ward of Northwood House and his family. Northwood, therefore, church fell into serious disrepair. However, in the 1860s it underwent a substantial restoration. The wooden belfry was replaced and rebuilt into a spire. My own thoughts about the church are a little bit deeper than the facts that we know specific to the church. I've actually spent quite some hours in the local archives because many archives were found by the present vicar, Amanda, who then provided them to the local authority for archiving. I've been through them and I've had a look at the old maps. Now there's actually much greater history really than just purely what was written down. There's also some Paleolithic history. So we know that people lived here in Chawton for about 5,000 years. There is some arrowheads that have been found. Now when I look at the geography and I've looked at the LiDAR maps, you can see the spring first of all in the east aspect of the little tiny hamlet. Now that spring releases to two little streams that go down to the Medina estuary. Now they also go to a tidal pond or pool. Now I'm a sailor, so I find that would be absolutely perfect for wintering. So we believe that this and the path that goes through this village was the original Roman path, albeit not a Roman road, but a path from Newport to Cowes. So I think there's a lot of history here, but unfortunately the plague, particularly the 100 Years' War, would have completely smashed the population in this tiny hamlet. But actually it's perfectly situated and it's high above the river and it's got fertile ground that is still used to this day. It's a fascinating little hamlet and it's called Chawton Village.